So that said, it is still an algorithm. It is still a computer comparing words on a page to the words that someone types in. So vendors immediately started to try to game the system. They said, okay, Google has some sort of algorithm that determines whether or not something's important. I'm going to do whatever it is that Google wants and make my page show up as high as possible. So one of the first things that people did in terms of some of these tricks were to put a bunch of text in alt tags. So an alt tag, you know, if you're browsing online, you mouse over an image and that text comes up that says something about it. What that's supposed to do is describe what the image is. That's so search engines can read it, and so disabled users, blind users, they also have browsers that read them that stuff that say this is an image of such and such. What vendors started to do was put a single pixel somewhere on a page that had 300 keywords in the alt tag to try to show up higher in the results. To which Google responded, we're not going to look at alt tags anymore. Similarly, meta keywords, that's a tag in the header. It doesn't show up to users unless they go and look at the source of the HTML code. But it's something that was originally there where someone could say, this is what my page is about, and put a bunch of keywords in that should key to what the searchers are looking for. Again, people started putting irrelevant keywords in there that were highly ranked, but that didn't actually address anything that the users wanted. So you ended up with a system that I thought was, in this room, best described this way, where the advertisers tried to do something, and Google said, well, actually, we've got a better way of approaching this. And then the advertisers came up with another trick, and Google said, well, we've got a better way of getting around that also. And it became an arms race, where everything that Google did to their algorithm, vendors tried to game the system and cheat, and then Google responded by ranking lower whatever it was that vendors were starting to fake. So you end up in this system beautifully described by the best dummies guide to search engine advertising and marketing that you can find, the Better Butter book. So we're not going to get into any of that. I'm not going to talk about ways in which you can kind of game the system. The things, oh, and then another point is that there's a huge factor in what appears highest on the search results that has absolutely nothing to do with anything you do on your page, and it's how many people are linking into you. If people think that your site is relevant, and throughout the web there's links into your page for a particular topic, it's going to rank highly. And that's something you really can't gain. No one's going to link to you if you have a lousy site that doesn't have anything compelling on it. So then what is it that you actually can do? The first thing is to create relevant content, which we'll actually talk about last. The other is to present it clearly. And then finally, it's to maintain a consistent voice. And I'm going to talk about each of those things insofar as they relate to search engine optimization. Maybe now would be a good time to, nope, okay. I'm going to keep going. So clarity, what does that mean when we're talking about in SEO terms? If we take another look at a particular search result, this is one of the top results for the word books. It was the New York Times book review page. There's a couple very simple elements to it. There's a title and then there's a description. And while the algorithm for determining where that shows up on a page is this big secret, what shows up, what actually does show up on a page is not. They correspond directly to elements on your website. So books, the New York Times, is what's called the title tag of an HTML page. You don't want to make it any more than 66 characters because then you get ellipses and it gets cut off. That's as much as Google is going to look at. And the description comes from a keyword in your header called the meta description tag, where you say, this is what my site's about. And again, you can see here that the description tag in the New York Times was over 150 characters, so it got cut out. So those are two things whenever you make a website, very, very basic, but often missed that you want to keep in mind. Your title tag is the title of the search result, the link that shows up. Your description tag is the description that's there. If the title's over 66 characters, description over 150, they're going to get cut off, and you're going to lose the ability to communicate some stuff that would have been very valuable to communicate. So that's the very simple sort of thing that you want to do. But immediately when you start thinking about things in these types of SEO terms, and in terms of trying to correlate keywords and page rank and all the rest of it, you can run into some dangers. And the major dangers that you can get into are writing titles and descriptions that are filled with keywords and seem like they'll be really good for the algorithm, but no human being could parse together the sentence that's just a bunch of keywords that you stuck together. And the other is that you're going to lose the voice of what it is you're trying to promote. And there was a funny example of that recently, where Esquire, on their website, in the section they call Women We Love, had a photo shoot of Mary Louise Parker. But they got a search engine optimization expert to come in and tell them how the titles and everything else should be written. So Esquire, which has its reputation to uphold of being a classy gentleman's magazine, all of a sudden, if you searched Mary Louise Parker, you saw naked photos, Mary Louise Parker as Esquire, which is not what they want. Gawker had a lot of fun with that for a few weeks. And that's something to definitely avoid, and it happens more and more often now, where people are trying to get things to be good for SEO, and in doing so, really making a hash of their brands and making a hash of their core way of communicating their tone of voice. So you want to stick, follow those rules, follow the character counts, but stick to your way of speaking. Don't do that. And then finally, the major thing, what this all kind of comes down to, is finding the discussion that's happening around a book and participating in that discussion. In certain cases, like the book that Gretchen's working on, The Happiness Project, the potential audience for that book is extremely vast. As Gretchen said, she wants to put her blog everywhere. Anybody who is trying to be happier would be interested in something that Gretchen has to say. So by all means, go to Slate, HuffPo, and Yahoo, and anywhere else that you can place that information. But in a lot of cases, what I'm sure we're going to find, I'm going to speak to you guys about some of the books you're promoting or writing now, the audience is necessarily going to be more limited. Children's books, technical books, books about a particular sport, a particular game, a particular country, a moment in history. There's a limited audience for who wants to read that stuff. And this is where traditional publicity is often falling through the cracks. You either have a situation where a publicist says, okay, we have to get you on Larry King, go to the Today Show, get an ad in the New York Times, try to get an interview on on the NPR or whatever else. And that's not really going to be effective if the topic is constrained enough that it really isn't going to work in such a diffuse area. So the trick there is to actually find the conversation that's happening around your book's topic and participate in that conversation. And on that note, are there any people here who have a book that they've recently promoted or launched in the past month or so that we can talk about as an example?